All right, welcome back everybody to video number 5 of my ITIL Foundation Training. The first 4 videos covered a high-level introduction of ITIL, and we also looked at the key terms and terminologies used in ITIL, as well as we had a brief overview of the 5 stages or 5 phases of ITIL life cycle. We're now going to dive into each of those 5 phases in much more detail. So really hang tight and pay attention to this. Okay, so we're going to review the first life cycle phase of ITIL. It's called service strategy, as you probably remember from video number 4. So from a service strategy perspective, understand the term service asset. Service asset consists of resources and capabilities. Resources, as you can see on the left-hand side in your diagram here, it's the tools, the hardware, the software, the money that's needed to develop a service. And on the right-hand side is what's called capabilities. Capabilities is really know-how. So it's the people, the documentation that those people prepare that help you come up with a service or design a service or deliver a service. So remember the term service asset. Service asset is a collection of your resources and your capabilities. Service strategy supports value creation through services. Okay, so what's the purpose of service strategy? It is to define the overall strategic planning for providing IT services to customers, including the perspective, position, plans, and activity patterns that a service provider will need. So really, at a high level, you are looking at defining the overall strategic planning for your company. What services you want to provide to your customers? Who are your customers? And what's the value for those customers? How does it meet their business objective? Those are some of the things you think about in the service strategy phase. All right, let's look at objectives of service strategy. And this is really the key slide in this slide deck. And the bullet points that I've highlighted in red are the ones that you must absolutely understand and remember. So the objectives of service strategy are listed here. Number 1, define the services that will be delivered and the customers for those services. So you not only define the services that you plan on delivering, but also define who the customers are. Who will be the customers for those services? What is the target market? Define value creation and how it is delivered to customers. Identify opportunities to provide service and how to best take advantage of them. Define the service provision model that includes defining the funding, delivery, customers, and purpose of services. So again, this is a very important point. This is one of those bullet points that you would want to remember when we talk about objectives of service strategy. Define an organization's capability required to deliver the services. So you must look at your own capability, the capability of the organization to deliver those services that you are about to come up with. Document and coordinate how service assets will be used to optimize their performance. You must document how service assets will be used. Remember, we talked about service assets in the previous slide. The capability, the resources, you need to document how will you use those assets to deliver the service. Define the processes and services to be used to deliver the strategy, including the required level of investment and the level of demand. what is the level of demand for that service, right? You need to be thinking about that in the service strategy phase. The last bullet point there, again, something you should remember and try and understand fully well, is understanding the business relationship between the customer and the IT service provider. Because relationship is everything. All right. The scope of service strategy is to define the general principles and processes involved in IT service management. Once these are defined, these principles and processes can be consistently applied to IT service management by service providers. ITIL service strategy phase addresses the following aspects. Number 1, define the strategy for service providers to deliver services that result in the desired business outcomes for customers. Remember the term outcomes. What are the business outcomes those customers are desiring to achieve? You also need to define the strategy for managing the services. What will be my strategy with regards to managing the services or the service that I'm about to propose and offer? Service portfolio. That's again an exam question as well. Very often it's asked in the exam. Service portfolio is a list of all of your services that are being offered today, the ones that have been retired that were offered in the past, as well as the services that will be offered in the future. So service portfolio is a combination of past, present, and future. As you see on the right hand side, service pipeline is your future services. Service catalog is where you document all of your current services, and retired services are those that have been retired, so you no longer offer those services to your customers. Service portfolio is a combination of all three. Just remember that. All right, so this slide really talks about a business case, because in service strategy, you would end up with a business case. Whatever that service is, you would end up writing a business case for the executives to get approval for launching and offering a new service. So this slide really gives you some guidelines as you come up with the business case. Typical components of a business case would include an introduction section where you talk about the business objectives to be addressed. Then you need another section around methods and assumptions. This will talk about boundaries of the business case, the financing aspects, the beneficiaries, and the time constraints. You will then have a section on business impacts, the financial and the non-financial results for the company. Risks and contingencies. You will talk about in your business case both risks and contingencies. Potential side effects or alternate results. And then in the end of your business case, you will end up with the section recommendations. And in this section, you'll talk about actions to be taken given the conditions. So what do you recommend to your executives? What actions do you recommend be taken as you come up with your business case? All right, so what are some of the activities of the service strategy phase? Again, a very important, aspect for you to remember when we talk about service strategy. First, define the market. This is going to be the most critical, element of your service strategy as you begin to think about and explore a new service to be offered. Understand who the customers are, right? Who will use this service and how It'll help them meet their business objectives. So what are the business objectives that your customers have that can be met through this service that we're talking about? And then develop the offerings. So define the market space, which is a set of business outcomes that are facilitated by a service. Define your services from an outcome-based standpoint. Populate the service portfolio by establishing the service catalog and the service pipeline. Remember the terms service catalog and service pipeline. Service pipeline is your current services, whereas service catalog is a list of all of your services, including the past services that have been retired, the current, which are also part of your service catalog, and the future services, which is your service pipeline. Develop strategic assets, so use capabilities and resources to support the services. Use strategic assets to systematically create value for the customers and seek ways to improve service potential. And then lastly, prepare for execution. Align policies and objectives with customer needs. Define the critical success factors. What are the critical success factors as I go about launch this new service for my customers? Prioritize investments based on customer needs. That's going to be crucial as well, and that's part of service strategy. Seek ways to differentiate the service provider in the market space. How do I differentiate myself as a company as I go about offering this new service, which might be new for me, but there might be other service providers offering the same type of services to those clients. How do I differentiate my services from others? And that brings to the end of our session and this video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.